Guys, welcome back. As you can see, Holden is not with us again. So it is your two favorite people in the entire world. Me, Jacob, with John Adam Lingefeld. And big week ahead of us. Before we get into it, I'd like to thank our sponsor of our podcast, Revival Pizza Company. Christ First Second, located off of 165 in Sterlington, Louisiana. Once again, Revival Pizza Company. Thank you guys. But heading in to this week's episode, major events occurred. Uh, but the biggest one of all, the most watched television game program ever, happened this Sunday. If you weren't watching, if you didn't hear about it, probably living under a rock. But the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl happened on Sunday, and it was an all-time classic. It was a great game through and through, and the Chiefs took down the 49ers 25-22 in overtime. Many things occurred through this game. Many things stood out. Many things went wrong. We're here to analyze it all. So, with the first question, John Adam, what stood out to you the most?
I would say I would say for me, I think the thing that stood out was the fact that the 49ers did something that they hadn't done recently, and that's they came out looking like they were the better first half team. And it looked to me, I don't know, I don't know if it was coaching, game plan, whatever. Second half was slower than the first as far as what the 49ers brought to the table, which is not something we've seen from them. We've seen slow to start, acceleration in the second half, and end up winning the game, which obviously this game, went to overtime. Uh, and we were able to, have a close game through and through, but they started off with the foot ahead. And I don't know if it was necessarily, like I said, I don't know if it was necessarily something Andy Reid did at halftime coming out in the second half, or if it was Shanahan coming out in the second half, sticking with the same game plan, and what Andy Reid brought to the table just worked against what he had previously had in the first half, or if it was a switched game plan that just didn't work. And they shot themselves in the foot. I don't know, but I do know, the team that we've seen for pretty much all season, besides a couple of games where they lost, the 49ers had the roster to do it. I mean, we've discussed it. We knew that they were a top favorite in the NFL to make it this far and win it. They didn't make it this far. They just came up short. But it's interesting to me that that type of team would allow a comeback in that fashion in the second half. Not saying it can't happen. I mean, they're all professional athletes. At the end of the day, it's a pro team that is playing, so anything can happen, and you're dealing with really smart coaches and game planning and stuff like that. But I think to me, it's the fact that it seemed like the 49ers, I won't say let off the gas pedal, but almost didn't find something that worked in the second half that they were getting in the first, which is odd to see because you would think that, they have a lead in the Super Bowl coming in the second half, they'll just expand on that
Yep.
or at least have the same amount of success, and they just didn't.
Yeah. And to your point, I do agree. Like it just seemed off the entire second half. Like our the first two playoff games, they start out slow and they're finishing on fire. This one they start off on fire. They seem to be dominating. They have the momentum entering the half. Then you start off the third quarter with an interception, and then boom, to your point, it just you have a total of negative 2 yards for your first three drives of the second half. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most was probably in overtime. If you look, and obviously a lot of people talking about the overtime rules, they didn't know overtime, they made a mistake choosing the ball, regardless, yada yada yada. But specifically on the defensive end, you have a third and short coming up. You stuff them. Nobody's excited after that. Nobody's hyped that it's fourth down. Your Super Bowl is on the line. It's fourth and one, and you've got players hand on hips looking at the sideline. They don't look ready for the next play. They don't look like they want to be there. They look beat up. They look tired. You got McCaffrey on the sideline. He's not even hyped that they could possibly win. He's can't even watch. His hands are in his face. You've got Jawan Jennings looking out in no man's land, just like disappointed and upset. The entire team looked deflated. It's
Yeah.
4th and 1. You make one stop, you win it all. And they just look defeated. And so you're coming out and you're like, no one's hyped. You're watching replays. It's like, wow, they really were like, oh man, Mahomes is really going to convert this. Like, yeah, I thought Mahomes and Andy Reid were going to convert the 4th down, right? But if I'm on the defense, you got to be hyped. It's 4th down, Super Bowl on the line, and you have no sense of urgency. And I think that was the key that stood out was the sense of urgency. First half, like you said, they had it. Second half, it was gone. It was nowhere to be seen. And that leads me to the next thing. Did the 49ers give away this game, or did the Chiefs just overall the better team? Did they like what happened?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer because at the same time, as much as they had the lead and technically they did blow the lead, they still managed to be able to go into OT with it. But at the same time, you're dealing with Patrick Mahomes, you know? And I think like I know we'll get to this in a later question, but you have to find a way to make him turn the ball over. You
Mm-hmm.
have to give him pressure. And if you can't, the dude's going to make so many plays. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who he's got as a weapon. I mean, quite honestly, he can
Yep.
do anything he wants with time. And if you're not applying pressure on him, and I don't know how
You
you
give them a
stop a
spark.
guy like him.
They had nothing, and then they gave them a spark.
Yeah,
And after that moment, they just looked good,
yeah,
like out of nowhere.
yeah. And that's why I can't really answer that because I would like to say the 49ers blew the lead, but at the same time, like Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey, I mean, they game managed that so well to be able to march down the field and get the points that they needed to send this thing. And it could have been a situation where the 49ers came out, the Chiefs were down, and it could have been a situation where the 49ers ran away with this thing. But rather than that, I mean, I know I've seen the memes of him Kermit the Frog in the
Mm-hmm.
halftime and he's like
Yep.
giving his speech or whatever. But
Yep.
I mean, it's true. Like they came out ready to play in the second half, and you can't take credit away from a team that comes back and wins. I mean, ultimately in OT, I know, but I mean, to defensively too. I mean, everything was on point for the Chiefs coming out in the second half. You get to OT, the 49ers receive first. They score, they win. The Chiefs got a good enough stop to only allow a field goal.
No, the Chiefs would have gotten the ball back even if
That's right. That's
they were
right.
overtime rules.
That's right. I forgot about that. You're right. But still, to come away with only a
Yep.
field goal is
Yep.
huge. And then the fact that they get the ball, obviously, and go down and score. I can't take credit away. I will say the 49ers lacked in the second half. I won't say they necessarily blew it. I think in a Super Bowl game, when you have a lead, you need to try to maintain that. Obviously, that's what they're going to try to do. They're a professional team. They're all competitive. That's what they want to do. They just didn't. The plays that they were running were not working out, and it's almost like they couldn't really figure out something that would work. And the Chiefs had everything rolling in the second half, and they just compounded it and compounded it and compounded it and continued to make it work all the second half into OT. Ultimately, they won. I
Mm-hmm.
think they just caught fire late, and the 49ers didn't.
Yeah, and like if you look at these, when I want to say, I really want to say the 49ers blew it, and in a sense they did. But if you're looking on paper, I mean, the Chiefs had more total yards. They had a higher yards per play. They both had the same amount of drives. Their red zone, they were 2 of 6 in the red zone. The 49ers were 1 of 2. The Chiefs did well preventing the 49ers from even getting close to
Yeah.
the red zone or getting into the red zone. And then to your point of you got to make Mahomes turn the ball over, they got stops. They had an interception in the fumble. and they both resulted in punts. It was punt after punt with those two turnovers they forced. And the two fumbles that the 49ers had, they resulted in a punt and a touchdown. And ultimately, that touchdown gave Mahomes that spark that you're talking about. And so, like, it's never really a sense, I guess, and I kind of like figured this when you were talking about, like, again, I want to say the 49ers choked, but, you know, do you ever feel like the Chiefs are out of a game with Mahomes behind the ball?
Like, man, I've been saying it throughout the season that they didn't have the weapons or the playmakers to be the same Chiefs as they were with Tyreek, because it felt like then he was the
It felt
crazy
like an even
playmaker.
playing field now. It felt like Mahomes was
Right,
going to go to like this same old. He
right,
lost his major weapon, and like
right. Yeah.
proving me
And
wrong.
and then at the same time, all these wide receiver dropping passes. They were leading the league in drop passes, and they didn't have a reliable source outside of Travis Kelce. And Pacheco, he did establish the run game. He is a good running back in the league. But like outside of that, it's
Yeah, they had
like
nothing.
drop passes after
You could
drop
have
passes.
Rasheed Rice for a little bit. He was
Right.
contributing a
Yeah.
good amount towards the
Yeah.
end, but like again, you don't have that stud
Right.
wide receiver core like the 49ers do. I mean, you got Debo and you
Exactly.
got Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah. And I think that in itself maybe explains just how good the coaching staff is there, to provide the even though you may not have, and professional athletes, we're talking professional athletes, people have bad days, people have bad games, and they get better as the season goes on, and they hear all the talk probably, and they try to prove people wrong. But I think there's a lot to say when you have a team that's maybe not as good talent wise, to still find a way to get those players open is a lot to do with, you know, looking at the matchups and who's covering them, and what route to run or what plays to run specifically based on the coverage that you're getting. And I mean, the 49ers defense is no slouch. They were good all season. Obviously, coming in as the playoffs started, they've been struggling a little bit more than they were
Yep.
in the regular season, but they still got talent. I mean, you can't say talent wise that they're not one of the top defenses in the
And they
league.
did well. They only allowed 2 touchdowns all game.
Right. Right. And so I think to continually find ways to get Travis Kelce open obviously is key for the Chiefs' success. And it continues to work no matter what people do.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me to no end the fact that that is their main source for receptions and yardage in key situations, and they don't double coverage him. Like, I get it, he's a tight end, but the dude, even though he's not necessarily the fastest or the best route runner, he finds ways to get open. And he
And
go
oh,
ahead.
you go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Him and him and Patrick Mahomes have the chemistry to understand where each player is going to be when and where. And Patrick Mahomes knows when he's about to run that route, he might step this way, fake the defender out, and go back this way. They have the best chemistry probably in all of NFL football as far as when Travis is going to be open, Patrick Mahomes just knows, and he hits them in the perfect spots. And it makes Travis Kelce look like the best route runner ever.
Yep,
He's not,
yep.
but he constantly finds him. And I want to know, like, their conversion whenever like he's passing it to him, how much is actually incomplete? Because I swear I hardly ever see the dude drop the ball, because
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes always hits him perfectly exactly where he needs to be every single
And he always
time.
gets open. He just
Yeah,
sits in that pocket. And I will say, like, to your point, and I also feel like a little bit, like Chiefs kind of lucked out because, I mean, you have Dre Greenlaw covering him the entire first
yeah,
half, essentially. One receiving yard. He has one receiving yard. You're feeling good. Your game plan is working. Your game plan is working. Greenlaw gets injured and then boom. You don't want that because if
yeah,
that's a weakness, Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to attack it all the time, all night, all game long. They're going to attack it. They're going to find your weakness and they're going to attack it until you can fix it. And it showed in the second half. Kelce got open. They found
yeah,
plays. They made it look like they've been doing it the entire game.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
And it is unfortunate that Greenlaw got hurt the way he did.
I know.
I know that that was devastating for the 49ers defense in general. I know Fred Warner, I saw a clip I mean, it was like probably 40 minutes ago.
Yeah.
The clip of them on the sidelines, like it was
Yeah.
kind of mic'd up. It's just unfortunate that that happens, but when that type of thing happens, you have to be prepared. I mean, anybody can get
Next
hurt
man up. Next man up mentality.
yeah, and
Got to be
if
ready.
he's not as good, which obviously Greenlaw's the starter, whoever I don't remember who went in for him, but I think Fred actually ended up covering Kelsey mostly after
Probably,
that.
yeah.
But if he can't cover him, send help or do something. You
Yep.
got to figure it out.
You
You
got to
got to
adjust.
you have to because he ate their lunch after that. Like, man, I don't know what the 49ers could have done differently. I just
Maybe
know that
converted third downs. They went 3 of
yeah,
12 and allowed the Chiefs to
yeah,
go 9 of 19.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately in that type of situation, stopping Mahomes is going to be difficult. And when they're like on a heat check,
Mm-hmm.
it's really tough to stop that offense, no matter who you are.
They scored the touchdown. What do they do afterwards? They go down, they score again. What do they do when you get the ball in overtime? You just knew that they were going
Yeah,
to score. We've
yeah,
seen it time and time again, and they just didn't adjust. They didn't do anything. And like you said about the pressure, they got 3 sacks. But what did you do after that? You sat back. No sense of urgency whatsoever.
yeah. And also, I think somebody mentioned it in our group chat while the game was going on. It seemed like they were playing some pretty safe prevent defense. Like I understand the whole thing in OT where they didn't know exactly the
Yeah.
rules and all that stuff, but they seemed to be playing pretty passive when it came to the coverage,
They
like
came
allowing all
passive
these
when
eight
they
to ten
tried to
yard
drive
passes.
down. Like
Yeah,
driving down the field, right? You're allowing Kelsey to get behind you for like 20, 30 yards. That can't happen. You're playing this soft coverage and you're watching it and you're like, why are you
yeah,
doing this against the Chiefs team that can torch you?
yeah,
You got to play the defense that's been working all game. I
yeah,
understand there's a certain amount of time left. Do you want to keep them in bounds and make them use their timeouts and run out the clock? But you got to stick to your game.
yeah.
If it works, it works. Why abandon it?
Right. And you're and okay, say it's not even Patrick Mahomes. If you're giving any professional quarterback 8 to 10 yards of open space, he's going to take it and then allow his playmakers to make extra yards off of that. If you're giving them all that space, anybody's going to beat you like that. Like, why not send some pressure, right? Like, put pressure on them or just push up. Don't allow that. Make them go. Make them beat you 40 yards.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. I'm not a coach, and I'm not. I'm not. I don't have the resume to do that. But just watching the game, it's like, why are you allowing this? Like, why are you allowing these easy 10+ yards to be caught right here in this type of situation? You can't do that. You got to apply pressure or just come up in general. Just get in their face. You're allowing way too much to happen. It's like free. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. And then moving on a little bit, still in the NFL world, and a lot of people have been talking about this, but Mahomes and his GOAT status, his legendary status, do you think he has the potential of passing Tom? And yeah, is he approaching this GOAT status? Do you see at the end of his career the way it's going? Do you think he'll get there?
He 100% will get to Tom Brady status or GOAT status at the end of his career if he's keeps up the pace that he's on. 100%. I mean, there's no debate as far as if he's got the time. There's no debate as far as if he's got the stats. There's no debate as far as if he's got the resume it's going to take if he continues what he's got. I don't wish any bad luck towards anybody. If he had a serious injury, obviously, situation could change. But as of right now, and the resume he's got, the winning he has inside of him, and the coaching he's got, the dude is a winner. We've established that. He finds ways to win. He was doubted. I will say this, even though it's frustrating to say, I doubted the Chiefs before the playoffs started. I think a lot of people did.
I think me
A
and you
lot of
both
people
got
did
kind of
not
owned a
expect.
little bit.
I did not expect them to make the Super Bowl. They made the Super Bowl. I did not expect them to win the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. So in a year that they probably shouldn't have or didn't nobody thought they would, they ended up winning it anyway. And if that's not the most Tom Brady Patriot-esque way, then this is it right here. And he's doing it in a fashion that is more dominant than Tom Brady did it. I know you can throw stats around all you want and look at the defenses that each team Tom Brady had that won, or each team that now Patrick. You have to do it as a team. You have to do it with good coaching, and you have to be able to make the plays in situations like what we just saw in OT. Okay, it's overtime now. All right, they were not worried at all. You could almost feel it after they got the field goal. After the field goal, it's almost like, I mean, I felt it. I don't know about you, but I was almost like,
I felt it 100%. They didn't score, and I was like, oh, they hit the 4th and 1, and I'm looking at this guy to my left. His name is Sean. Shout Sean. I looked at him like, oh, they're gonna convert this. This is gonna be an easy, classic Andy Reid 4th and 1 play. It'll either be a bootleg or a QB run. And what they do, Mahomes goes, whoop, 6 yards, 7 yards for first down.
And that's why every time they play the Bills in the same situations, I'm like, game over. Like, Patrick's got the ball in his hands. Yeah. And I was talking to my dad about this. It's like MJ. MJ got the ball in his hand. You look, this is what you cannot do. You cannot give the best player on the field a chance. And every time they do it, they're gonna win. Give the ball to MJ, he's gonna win. Give the ball to Patty, he's gonna win. That's the GOAT mentality.
You win in those situations.
Yep.
I don't like the Chiefs, but I'm taking Mahomes 10 out of 10 times. Yeah. I mean, he finds a way to win games, and if he doesn't, it's like, oh wow, you actually just stopped. Like, that's an accomplishment. That is a huge accomplishment if you stop him when he has the ball last of his hit.
Yep.
I mean, he's probably one of the best I've seen touch wise, probably besides Tom Brady, because I feel like every time he did the same thing. But like what you said, he's approaching GOAT status, 100%. His trajectory, 3 titles in 5 years. That's insane. He's 28. I mean, when did Tom Brady play to like 44, 43 or something like that?
I think he hit 45 even.
45? So you're telling me Mahomes has 16 more years? I got to look at 16 more years of this if he goes to Tom Brady's like longevity.
Yep.
There's no way he doesn't get 8 Super Bowls.
And the question is this. In the league that we're having now, where they're protecting the quarterback as much as they are, injuries are like a lot less of a chance now, because sure, you can have the non-contact injuries, obviously, but you're mostly going to get those from your running backs or players of that caliber. As a quarterback, they're not going to have that problem. Lamar Jackson maybe, or a running quarterback might have that problem. Patrick Mahomes, dude, he can sit there all day and throw the ball around.
He had a great O-line this past Sunday. His O-line was, I know he got sacked 3 times, but it felt like he was protected. He could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah. Dude, I would not be surprised at all if the next 5 years he's got 3 more, and then he'll have 6 at that point, and he'll have all these stats and MVPs and all this other stuff to go along with it, and he will still have probably 5 years on his career, like at a good caliber of a quarterback. And I can tell you right now, he ain't losing a starting job. I mean, the dude's set in stone. So he's going to be the starting quarterback no matter where he goes, no matter what happens. And he's got the accolades to back it up. And so he's not there yet. I am going to be the one to say he's not there yet. I'm not going to say he's the GOAT. I will say, watching him live in person, what he does is more GOAT-like than what Tom Brady did. But at the same time, I will say mentality is everything when it comes to that. The team you have around you is a big part in that. I mean, you cannot discredit him, Tom Brady, whoever, for not for winning, but having a good defense. I mean, the Chiefs had a good defense. They stopped one of the best offenses in the league multiple times. And so if we're going to talk about defenses, they have a good defense. So, You have to. I mean, a team is a team. It's not just Patrick Mahomes. He's got a great defense to get stops, and the defense has a great quarterback and a great offense to be able to score points. It goes both ways, and so there is no doubt in my mind that he can get there. I think he can. He might can. Honestly, I, dude, I don't want to say it, but like I could see him winning. He's going to be a favorite next year too, and the year
Mm-hmm.
after. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
constantly be a top 3 team just because he's on it.
Anyways, that is our Super Bowl recap coverage. Uh, Moving on to people's favorite around the world now, in the world of what is chaos currently, college basketball. This weekend, Saturday, we saw number 8 Tennessee lose away. We saw number 10 Illinois lose away. Illinois lost to Michigan State. Tennessee to A&M. We saw Wisconsin lose away, I think to Rutgers or something. We saw Auburn, number 12, lose away to Florida. We saw Kentucky lose, I think, a neutral side, or maybe they were at home against Gonzaga by 4. Um, Number 11, South Carolina got crushed. Now, granted, they did play number 13, Auburn. Um, KU in North Carolina, close wins on Saturday. Both absolutely choke on Monday and Tuesday. KU with an embarrassing loss, and North Carolina with another loss. I don't even know who they lost to. I don't remember. Syracuse. They lost to Syracuse. So both me and John Adams teams are struggling. We've got woo 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 up and down inconsistency. The freaking world of college basketball is in chaos right now, and it feels like anyone and everyone's gonna lose. So holy moly, dude, what is? I
Woo,
feel like
woo.
every week I gotta ask what is going on, but like, man, that's crazy.
Hey, I mean, we kind of discussed it because obviously y'all know me and Jacob's teams, Kansas and North Carolina. I mean, as he just said, we're like on a roller coaster of emotions, beating top teams and then losing to nobodies. Um, but we kind of discussed it. We touched on it the day of North Carolina losing, and just discussing like what it's gonna take for teams to go far uh in March Madness in the tourney. And it's like all these teams that constantly NIL plays a big part, but getting a getting a culture that you want to stay in and a coach, because ultimately coaches are one of the biggest pieces. I mean that has proven to be true. You know, when I know this is football, but when Nick Saban retired, it was like all hell broke loose with the transfer portal. Um, because of a coach, and obviously that plays a big role in players' decisions to go to a certain college. And if you aren't establishing that culture early in recruiting, then you're gonna lose players by their sophomore year, especially if they don't start as a freshman. You're gonna lose them, and they're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
go somewhere else. And your guys who are committed to the college are gonna leave, go to the draft, become something. But what do you have after that? That's the biggest thing is who are your sophomores and juniors who are actually
who
going
can
to
you
stay?
retain? Yeah, who's gonna stay? Because if you look at like UConn who won it last year, most of them I'm pretty sure weren't even transfers. They stayed together. You look at UConn again; they basically retain the same guys. I mean, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and you look at the Blue Bloods. How are the Blue Bloods gonna adjust? Obviously, all of them have great coaches. No one's gonna say they don't. Obviously, Kentucky's always recruited their one and done, so it's almost like this is just the same old, same old. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the North Carolina, the Dukes, the Kansas, we can't retain our players most of the time because if you have a good recruit and they don't play their freshman year, or if they do play and they're not as good as what people thought, Marco Jackson for KU and he gets benched, they're 100% going to get going to the transfer portal. Last year for KU, we got a McDonald's All American, MJ Rice. He needs time for development, and he showed flashes of what can happen if he stayed, but he didn't play. He didn't start. And where is he now? He went back home to North Carolina State, and he's no longer on the team. If you look at the KU roster over the years, and you see almost every single year, it's different. We retained 2 or 3 starters from last year to here. if you look at our title-winning squad in 2022, most of those guys came back. They stayed, and so yeah, like you said, I mean, what is it going to take?
That's
I don't,
that's the biggest issue, and I think that's 100% why we're seeing so many upsets this year is because all these top colleges are losing their players and they're dispersing all over the conferences. And I'm not saying that those schools are necessarily better. I don't think they are. But
yeah,
what it sure enough does is creates a culture for them to where they feel like they are better. And they play good ball here and there. And it's enough to get a lot of upsets against teams that are supposed to be really, really good. You know, the top teams in the country. They go to their house or play away and they get beat by two or three or whatever. And what we're seeing is established teams with established cultures and players who have been there for years and players who will fill in the next year are at the top and they've been unwavering. I mean, they'll lose a couple of games, but your UConns, your Purdue's, they're at the top of the board right now. Why? Because they've got players who are wanting to be there, and then I guarantee next season the next players will fill in. That's what you want.
yep,
You want a constant fill in, and that's for any college. I mean, I'll talk about North Carolina all day. You'll talk about Kansas all day. But at the end of the day, it affects any team. If you're losing players and then you're having to recruit, you'll get recruits. That's not the problem. You're a Kansas, you're a North Carolina, you're a Duke, you're whoever, you're going to get players coming from high school wanting to go. It's getting them to stay after they're not playing when they first get there as a freshman. They're not playing. It's getting them to stay for their sophomore season. And then if they have a good sophomore season, getting them to stay for a junior season because I mean, we saw what was his name? Oh, I'm having a blank. He was a North Carolina player, really good last year and went to Arizona.
Caleb Love.
Yes. Why would you leave? You established yourself for a whole season and then you left. And obviously there was some reason why he left, but is it a culture thing? Did he think that he wasn't going to start? I mean, the dude was going to start, so there's no question about that, but maybe he just didn't like where he was at. Maybe he wanted to just try somewhere else. I don't know, but nowadays any college player can make that decision for themselves without having to worry about anything. And it's finding a way to build a culture that gets them to want to stay. All 4 years or however long until they go for the draft. Obviously, like you said, Kentucky, they constantly have one and dones. Somehow they keep getting players that just go to the draft after 1 year and become something really good, or sometimes they don't, but most of the time they've become really good NBA players. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing in college basketball you can see right now is for anybody to keep those players, the longevity of having those players, and when you recruit, keeping those players until they go to the draft and having a squad that's got good chemistry together. Because if you don't, you're losing on the road. You're going to go into March Madness and you're going to lose in the first or second round against a team that you weren't supposed to because your team just doesn't have the chemistry to do it. You've got all the talent in the world, but you can't win a game because this team's been together for 3 years. Yours has been together for one. And so I think that's kind of why we're seeing all the upsets that we're actually seeing.
Yeah. Hey, it makes March Madness, it makes it even more madness because I feel like there's this discrepancy. I mean, there's this parity in the world now. I feel like it's anyone's game, man. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
looking at these upsets. It's like, man, I'm thinking like a couple years ago, we'd still have a bunch of 2 and 3 lost teams, and now we're chilling with a bunch of 6 and 8 and 7. I mean, the standings right now in the Big 12. You got Houston and Iowa State at number one, Baylor's third, and Kansas is number five. I mean, your Big Ten is obviously Purdue at number one. Your SEC is a dogfight. You got Bama number one. You got Auburn and South Carolina tied at two, and then you have Tennessee, who's half a game back from that number two spot. Kentucky's right there underneath, and you got Florida in the mix. And then yeah, same thing with ACC a little bit. North Carolina is still number one, but you got Duke right there. I think half a game back, and you got Virginia right there. So I mean, it's crazy. It's anyone's game. It's anyone's conference. It's anyone's tournament in March, and it's going to be who's going to be on fire.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do it? I don't know, but that's what makes March so amazing, and all the brackets get busted.
Hey. Sorry. Since we're doing around the world, and we're on college basketball. Can I switch to women's right real quick?
Oh yes, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, she just broke the women's record. Yeah,
My shout out to Caitlin Clark on breaking the women's all-time scoring record. She passed Kelsey Plum. So
that is
shout out to
breaking
Caitlin
news.
Clark.
That
That is
is
breaking.
breaking
As
news.
we are recording
Yeah.
right now, Caitlin Clark has passed her. However, there is a special Jayhawk named Lynette Woodard who's actually number one, but NCAA didn't recognize women's sports at the time. Uh, so on a technicality, yes, Caitlin Clark is number one. However, she's really number two because Lynette Woodard is a goat and a dog with 3,600 points or something like that. But yeah, shout out to Caitlin Clark. Um, Still in the realm of college baseball, college sports. We got college baseball returning this weekend. I know nothing about college baseball until the College World Series come back, so I have no idea who the favorites are. Probably be an SEC school. And then softball is obviously happening this past week, and so there's more softball, big tournaments, big matchups. Uh, Moving to the NBA, a little professional basketball now. Uh, John Adam, obviously, the last 2 days we heard of this Curry LeBron talk. Obviously, you're a Warriors fan, and obviously you think Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Um, what are your opinions and thoughts if this actually happened? If this did happen, like, what are your thoughts on LeBron and Curry possibly, you know, hooking up? I guess.
I mean, we all, well, not everybody knows, so I better establish. I'm not a huge LeBron fan, so I'm sorry if you are. For anybody listening to this, I do think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time when it comes to basketball. Um, I do know that there's a lot of friends in the league that like to play with each other, or like, they're just good friends, and at some point in their careers may just want to link up or whatever. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, LeBron would want to play with Curry, Curry would want to play with LeBron, stuff like that. Now, as far as a realistic thing, I don't think it's going to happen. I think too much would have to be given up for LeBron to go there. Not saying it can't happen. I just don't know, as far as for Golden State or for the Lakers, what would have to be given up to make that happen. Obviously, there was some type of proposal at some point before the deadline to try to get LeBron. I don't know what they were going to be willing to give up to make that happen. Obviously, if you are Steve Kerr or Steph Curry, even, you to get a LeBron type talent, obviously you're going to try to do whatever you can do to get that player. But at the same time, you got to think of age and how long are they either both going to be playing? Is it just like we haven't ever played together, let's play together while we're getting old? Or like what is the reason behind it? Because yes, LeBron is still playing well, but Curry's playing well too. So as far as like, are they wanting to win now, or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I have, experienced the whole KD coming to Golden
Yeah.
State and got to experience that whole situation. And sure, won an NBA championship with him, but ultimately I didn't. I preferred us before him. I liked the way we played. It was more fast paced without him. Um, KD came and wanted to control the ball a little bit more as far as him having it. Obviously, it sounded good whenever he first went. It's like, oh crap, we got KD, we got Steph, we got Clay. I mean, we've got everything we could ever want. It worked, but then it didn't. And then KD was like, I'm gone. I won my ring. Ta-da. Um, for LeBron, he's got his ring. Curry's got his rings. So as far as like rings go, they may just be wanting to play together to see if they can win something together. Ultimately, I don't have much thought on it. Honestly, whenever I saw that there was a report about how they thought about playing together, that I felt kind of in between about it. It's like, okay, if he joins them, great. I'm still a Curry fan. Uh, Still don't think LeBron
Yeah.
is MJ by any means. But if it happens, so be it. Whatever. I've always been more of a Curry, Klay Thompson fan than a Golden State fan anyway. I just want to see them succeed. That's kind of how I've gotten to the point where I'm at now. Uh, if it happens, cool. I mean, it'll definitely shake things up in the West if LeBron joins them, but I don't I don't know. I mean, do
Yeah.
you have anything on that? Do you have any?
Nope. Just a
No.
bunch of just two old people trying to have some fun. That's all. That's what I see. Two old people trying to have some fun, trying to mess around, trying to goof around. Uh, but this weekend is the All Star weekend for NBA. They're going back to the East West format for the first time in 7 years. We've got Giannis, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, and Jason Tatum highlighting the starting five for the East team. And then the starting five for the West team, we've got LeBron James, of course, Kevin Durant, Shy Julius Alexander, my Thunder boy. We've got Nikola Jokic, and then Luka Doncic highlighting that. Personally, I think the West is gonna beat the East. It's got more stars, more players, better players. Will I be watching? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, there's no defense. I understand it's fun, whatever, but I will say it's more enjoyable and more watchable than the NFL Pro Bowl, in my honest opinion. Uh, and then all the festivities start tomorrow. We've got the skills challenge on Saturday, starting at 7 o'clock Central Time or 6 Central Time, one of those two times, and then we've got the All Star Game on Sunday, which is 7 Central. Both of those on TNT. Um, but yes, that is our NBA news. You got any more comments or concerns on NBA, John?
No, I think the West will win, like you said, and uh, I mean, I like watching the skill stuff better, more anyway. The
Yeah,
3-point
they still
contest,
got the
dunk stuff,
Steph
dunk
Curry
stuff.
and the WNBA player.
Yeah, Sabrina,
Or
I
something. Yeah,
do whatever, however you say it.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, I don't really watch. I'll look and see who won and see who put up so many stats or whatever in the game, but I don't typically watch it. There's only been a couple of years where I have, so
yeah.
that's all.
Well, moving on. In the world of soccer, last week I talked about Bayern Leverkusen and Bayern Munich being a good game. And Leverkusen somehow won 3-0. I don't know how it's possible, but Leverkusen are making everyone look like nothing. Xabi Alonso ball is beautiful. It's absolutely cooking the German league. And it's led to this Bayern Munich downfall a little bit. Champions League was back on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Bayern Munich actually lost to Lazio 1-0. Giants team, Manchester City, big win against Copenhagen 3-1. They'll cruise right on through, most likely. Real Madrid took a W over RB Leipzig 1-0, and then PSG beat Real Sociedad Wednesday 2-0. Next up, next Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got PSV Eindhoven versus Dortmund and Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we've got FC Porto versus Arsenal and Napoli versus Barcelona. So obviously huge that European football, Champions League, Europa League, Conference League is back. So that's enjoyable to watch. Big game, me versus John Adam on Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Manchester City versus Chelsea. I'm gonna be honest, we're gonna lose 3-1. My guess is that we're gonna lose 1-3. Uh, Chelsea are not enjoyable to watch at all. We just suck. So it's gonna be Holland 2 goals and Phil Foden scores a goal and
Yeah, yeah,
ADB will probably have an assist and
yeah. Two,
maybe
two.
2 assists, and then I'm sure we're gonna see Jeremy Doku get Jeremy Goku, if you want to say. His name is Doku. He's cooking absolutely right now. He's a Belgian right winger who's on the come up, but he'll probably have an assist or maybe a goal too. But highlighting Asian Cup, I've been speaking about Asian Cup the last 2 weeks. Qatar got a W, so congrats to Qatar, and then Ivory Coast took a W over Nigeria in the African Cup of Nations. So shout out to Ivory Coast. But that's all the soccer we have in the world today. Oh, Mbappe is leaving at the end of the season. Forgot to mention that. Mbappe is leaving PSG, which is paving the rumored move to Real Madrid. Real Madrid continuing to get all these superstars and ruining the game with all of their money. That's for another topic and another day. But huge news on the front foot of soccer: PSG Mbappe is probably going to leave, join Real Madrid. You got anything else to add or anything like that?
No, I was gonna bring that up if you didn't, because I didn't know if you saw that. I got the big breaking news earlier.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So that is all for soccer. And Jayam will take it away with golf.
I don't have much, but Tiger Woods is playing in his first tournament back for a little while. He shot one over today, and he was having back spasms on the last several holes. So I don't know what it's going to look like for him. He had that interview after, and he was just saying that his back was tightening up on him and that he was struggling to rotate on the ball. And so if he makes the cut, he'll be in for a long 2 rounds. If he doesn't make the cut, it's probably for the best. I don't want to be that guy because the hype around him is always, he's back and stuff like that, and he's playing, and he breaks the news every time he says he's going to finally play in a tournament, and then he gets there and he struggles, but he's being watched the whole time because they put him in a featured group or something like that, so they make sure that he's on the television. And it's good. I mean, it gets more views. People want to see Tiger Woods, but when he's not playing well, it falls off. And I mean, ultimately, dude, like, he's getting to the age, he's starting to have problems with his swing or with his physical, his body in general. He just can't do what he used to do in his 20s and 30s. And I don't know if it's time for him to go to the older league or whatever, because once you hit 50, you're allowed to do that. So I don't know exactly how old he is either, but it's about time that he takes a little less stress off of his body, and doesn't feel the need to hit it 320, because that's the game we're at now, where if you're hitting it under 300, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to be in the hunt most of the time unless you just have really good iron play and putting. But that's all I've really got. He had made that announcement last weekend that he was going to be playing in the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And yeah, so he didn't necessarily play terrible. He didn't play good. He's kind of mediocre right now in the pack, and at this rate, he won't make the cut if he has another round like this for sure. Which is probably for the best. Like I said, just go ahead and save your body, because if you have to play another 2 holes and you're already having back spasms after day one, you're not going to be much, and he probably won't be much tomorrow. It may be worse. So that's all I've got in the world of golf. Yeah.
You got any other sports?
No.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We are Terrible Takes once again with absolutely terrible takes. 318 Legends is out now on YouTube, so make sure you go and you watch it. All set up by Lucas Toller, and we're there too, doing the questions with Holden. But 318 Legends is out now. We've got a Facebook, 318 Legends. I don't know if we have an Instagram, but our YouTube does have the 318 Legends videos. And so make sure to go check that out. First episode with Jake Martin has been announced and released. We got other big names coming up soon. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be legit. We're pumped. I know you are if you're watching. But yeah, that's all we have from us today for this week. And we will see you all, talk to you all next week. So peace out.
Peace out, Home Scout.